Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Neil Haley Show. And I'm excited to welcome the program from Selena, Natasha Perez. Natasha, what's up? How are you?
Hey, how are you? I'm doing pretty well. How are
Yeah,
you
no,
and your audience?
pretty well, considering the number of interviews you had to do today, right? When you do those tours, they're crazy, aren't they?
Yes, they are. It's
You're
intense.
asked the same question over and over and over again, right?
Hopefully I have it down for now. Like by now,
Do
it's
you
like,
like that, or would you rather? Do you like to be thrown off sometimes with questions?
well, for this one, we try not to be thrown off, but I used to be a radio host and a TV host. So, in a past life. So I like it. I think it's fun. It's actually fun to be on the other side because I used to be, I used to host for, could be a correspondent for Sony Entertainment Television. I used to be a radio show host for Y107 here in Los Angeles for the morning show.
Okay.
So it was like fascinating because I remember that we used to have celebrities. We had J-Lo, Jimmy Smith, and different people. And it's like, oh, it didn't dawn on me that they've been doing like this all morning. And now that I'm on the
J-Lo. So who's your biggest celebrities you've interviewed?
well, we had J-Lo on the show, but I didn't get to interview her. Who's the biggest? I'd say Pavarotti before he died.
Wow. And it's
Yeah.
just too bad is that don't you wish it was your podcast? That's why I said you need to do a podcast. Don't you wish it was your podcast, not where they own the rights? I'm sure you can't find that interview, can you?
Yeah, no, I can't. I think I have for when I did like Sony Entertainment Television. I have Jim Belushi. I have Bunny Hunt. I had Zach Braff. I have the cast. Wilmer Valderrama. I have a couple of like one of the Wayans brothers.
What was your show called in Sony Entertainment?
Well, we have music news and we have oh gosh. I did 3 shows for them, so I'm blanking out on the one. Estilo Sony style, because it was Sony Entertainment Latin America.
Oh, that's also okay. Interesting. So yeah, so I see you coming back and monetizing this, even if you're acting. I see you doing your own podcast someday. I just asked that question because I ask everyone, do you have a podcast? Because of the epins of being part of Clubhouse, and I'm a Club Pod leader, which is the largest podcasting club on Clubhouse and the second largest club in all of Clubhouse, 59,000 members. I host rooms in Clubhouse for Club Pod, and I ask everyone, hey, do you have a podcast? Everyone to go around, do you have a podcast? Because it's such a great opportunity because it's evergreen compared to YouTube where it's not. And if you have great talent and as good as you are, you can provide a good thing and you think, oh, it's too much work. It isn't. Just push record. They have micro podcasts now, by the way, as well. Did you know that?
Well, I would ask you after the show, like a little bit of details about that. That sounds fascinating. I love radio. I grew up like doing radio and I do voiceovers. That's what I do for the most part of my day. So
we'll talk Selena and then talk on because I have to finish up quick and then maybe I'll just get your number and we'll go from there. But I'd love to talk to you about those things. I'd love to get you on Fireside as well, because I'm a Fireside creator that's created by Mark Cuban. And it's basically like Clubhouse, except you have an audience that does reactions and everything, and it's more curated for the podcaster. So you pretty should have your podcast on Fireside. Then I recruit you in there and they'll be like, and then you just create whatever you want to create. You don't have to produce or anything. Sound quality is 1,000 times better in Clubhouse, and it becomes a podcast when you're done. So it's recorded.
This segment is being brought to you by.
No, I want to know. But Mark Cuban's got to write the check. Cuban, I told Mark, come on, Mark. I'm talking to the creators next week, meaning they're going to help me build my creative thing even more. So I came from Clubhouse, got recruited to Fireside, and now I'm recruiting everyone to Fireside. Clubhouse, you didn't hear that, Clubhouse, right? Because I love you so much, Clubhouse, because Clubhouse made me a lot of money. Trust me, because Clubhouse is the best. Social audio has changed my life. That's what I just want to bring all that, but your podcast. But let's jump to Selena and talk about this, because I have to binge watch it now. And so when you first found out you were going to be part of the show, because season 1, you were not in season 1 at all, right? Or just a little bit.
I'm like on the last episode as a, so little appetizer of what's about to come. Yeah,
exactly. So the point is, when you auditioned for it, how familiar were you with Selena, the story?
Not that much. I mean, I knew about her death, but because Selena wasn't super big in Venezuela, which is where I'm from, I didn't get to hear that much. But I've been in the States for a while, and it's like in LA for a while, and in Florida. And then you like, I understood after I like researched her and I became part of the show, like, oh, wait a minute, like I know these songs. These songs are part of like in every wedding. It like they get played on the radio. I'm like, oh, it's just like it dawned on me like how huge and how important she is for the Latin community, especially for the south part of the United States and the northern part of Mexico.
There was a movie before the Netflix series, right?
Yes. And I actually got to see it again yesterday.
Okay. And so that gives you a good catch up. That's another one. Is that on Netflix, or where did you watch the movie?
No, they had an event here in Los Angeles. It was a rooftop. It's like one of those, it's kind of like, like the drive-in, like where there's like a lot of space and a rooftop and stuff. And it was a silent one. So we get to have our headphones and watch. And so they invited the cast of the Netflix show, and some of us went. So it was a lot of fun. It was beautiful. And I decided not to watch the other ladies that I had portrayed as my character in the past, because I think that it's like a painting and I wanted just to paint with my own colors.
Right.
So I didn't want to get
the season 2's film, you can watch it then.
Yes, and I want to get to compare, like, what did they do?
Compare notes. Did you answer these kind of questions? Were these kind of questions in your other interviews you did in your tour, or really going into different stuff? Did anyone ask you the questions about what we've been talking about Selena so far? Just wondering. Always love getting feedback. See, this is the problem. Part of social audio is a different way of interviewing now. I'm thinking what my audience is thinking, not just us. Isn't that weird?
It's no. I get you. It's all about crowd everything, crowd science, crowd media, science,
everything. So based on that, what was your comparison? Do you think you play a better person as your character? So tell us a bit about your character. And
no, it's not about better. Come on, Lupe Ontiveros is like, she's amazing.
Yeah.
But it's just that we made different choices. Lupe was Lupe, and I think that what I try to do, because the show concentrates on the life of Selena and celebrating the music legacy and the artistic legacy of Selena. Yes. And my job is trying to help that story. So my job is what my task was trying to be as faithful as the to the lady that we saw on the news. So I like study those things, and I try to prep the character to get as close, like my voice, for example, like she speaks like this. So my character was most of the time here. I ended up putting up a little weight for this. I ended up losing actually like 34 pounds at the end of the show. What else did I do? Like her walk, or the preparation was like trying to embody her as much as I could.
That's being a dedicated character. Now you have to keep, like you said, you had to lose the weight after. Oh my gosh. So that's going to be, so what, and so you're a dedicated actress then, for sure, right?
Well, I'm a method actress, but on top of that, I'm also a comedian. So, and I was studying like clown before this, and I, been studying a lot of, how do I put this up? So with Strasberg, which is the method, what I study the most, I also study a bit of Grotowski, which is a Polish-Russian way of studying. It's mainly you study a character, you prepare a character from the inside out, as in like, you study the biography, the history, the psychological aspect of a character, and then you paint it from the outside. Whereas with comedy, and more like the British approach of exactly. Character creation, is from the outside in. So because of the pandemic, like I started from the inside out, but I had the chance to paint the character like with a lot more depth from the outside in. So I got to use both approaches, which was fascinating. I wish I have the time, because television usually moves a lot faster than film. With films, you have months to prepare and you have rehearsal, but television is like now. So so usually I was like, damn, the challenge was to be able to do this with the few days that I had to do the show. But then the lockdown happened, and we were in hiatus for a few months, and I'm like, instead of watching a lot of TV, I just like hump on like virtual archives on the library and try to research as much as I could from like publications from the time. I mean, the luxuries that we have now with technology is like insane. So I was like, I was able to connect with my clowning teacher, for example. He was the casting director from the Cirque du Soleil, and it just so happened that, you know, unfortunately the Cirque du Soleil stopped closed, and so he had time in his hands to be able to help me out. So I'm like, okay, let's analyze this character. How does she move? How does she do it? And like my singing teacher, she's one of the former singers from the Supreme, and Deborah Sharp. So she's like, okay, how do I keep my instrument instead of being here where I'm usually, you know, in terms of my voice? So how can I be here for 8 months and I'm able to keep it without like ending up like with a hoarse throat? So I mean, there were some luxuries that I was able to.
Voiceover artist, so that helps.
Yes, it does. And then the other thing that I did is like I prepped the character with a Southern accent, and in the end they decided to like go for more like a neutral to homogenize the character, the cast. So I'm like,
the Southern soft voice. Let's hear the Southern soft voice.
Oh, the Southern. What was the word that I was struggling the most? Because you know the typical like that you all and stuff, because he's from Corpus, so on top of trying to have the Southern thing is like Southern with the Hispanic touch, so it was a challenge, but we didn't get to hear that.
Okay. So basically your character, tell us who your character is. You've kind of a little bit but not completely explained it.
Well, for those who are not familiar with the story of Selena, Selena is a Tejano singer who was huge in the 90s. She sang mostly in Spanish, and which is funny because she didn't even speak Spanish at the beginning of her journey. But she was able to cross over into the general market at the time, like Gloria Stefan was doing that. And she won Grammys, and she developed like a line of perfumes and clothing. So she became huge. And then about 2 or 3 years before her, before we got to hear the sad news of her death, she started a lady who was a fan of hers offer her help to form a fan club, and she became the president of her fan club, and she then became her personal assistant and then her business manager in her boutiques. And unfortunately, she's also the one responsible for her death. The name of this person is Yolanda Saldivar, and that's the character that I portray in the Netflix show Selena the series.
Oh wow, that
just dropped on Netflix this Tuesday.
Gracious. Without that, there's why you're on Entertainment Tonight and all that. Oh my goodness. See, you're taking us through that, but some people might know the story. Others, make sure you ignored that. See, that's the problem when it's already out there, right? There's no spoiling a series that it really happened. Like if you watch JFK, you know JFK dies at the end, right?
Correct.
If you watch certain
people know this. People know this about this show. Like I'm not spoiling any news.
No, exactly. But wow.
So I'm the villain. I portrayed the villain of the show.
This is so cool. I can't wait. I'm going to be binge watching it. I'm telling you, that's going to be this weekend. No more. I'm going to relax, do some of my client work while watching Netflix Selena. So then I'll have to. But no, I think that's awesome. And I think that in that process of getting to be that, have you ever been a villain before? Have you ever been the heel? See, I'm a former professional wrestler. You see, there's so much of me as well as a character. And I was either a bad guy or a good guy. How did you prepare to be the heel that everyone's going to hate at the end? And yet you still, people sometimes don't take reality from realness, and then they see the character and know who really the person is. How did you prepare yourself to be a bad guy? Have you ever been a bad guy? Have you ever been the villain before?
Yeah, a couple of years ago, I played a villain for this Amazon film. It's like a road trip with Kurt Fuller and Margolis. It's like it's a road trip, but it's a comedy. So I got to play a villain, but it's more like a kind of villain, right?
What show was that in Amazon? Was Amazon Prime?
The name of the film. It's a film. It's called Baja.
Baja. Okay.
Baja. And it was a fun film that was, funny enough, it was shot in Baja, California, which is where Selena was shot. So I'm like, oh, twice. The 2 times that I play a villainous character is in Mexico. Right. So that was kind of fun. And I did play in theater the villain once. And I did not like it. I was a teenager, and it was a story about a couple of friends, and the main girl of the show came out as gay, and I was her best friend, and I rejected her.
Oh my God!
And it was a short-lived play, and it was only shown 3 times. And every time, like the day that we premiered the show, like everybody like started looking at me, and I could feel the vibes, like the hate looks from the audience. And when we were like, about to leave the theater, I was like crying, and the director was like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "People hate me. I hate this. I don't like this." I mean, it's like they hate what I did. I'm just like, "No, you did an awesome job. And the reason why they're hating you is because you did a good job." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Good. So it's funny because I ended up like, I don't want to play villains anymore. But now, like, now I'm a grown up, and it's a different thing because it's not about me.
Exactly.
It's about telling a story, and it is exciting to be able to portray someone totally different than you. I mean, I'm 5'7". This lady is 5'1". Like she has like short, like curly hair. These curls are not mine. I mean, I curl them. My hair is like long and very like straight. So
right.
I feel like we're very different. So I wasn't even being recognized by the director or by the crew when I wasn't in costume. So I'm not that. I was very apprehensive at the beginning, but then when I saw they eliminated my eyebrows, they aged me. Like there was so.
Oh, yeah, I'll have to be doing that stuff because I think we're going to stay friends. So I think that's not. I don't think this has ended where our last conversation, to say the least, especially when I brought up things. But it's funny. I was interviewing. I did a topic today. Can we multitask? And that was a topic on Fireside. Someone came up, and then I started talking about who I'm interviewing today. I had Manny Cabo, who was on The Voice, and then you. And then I mentioned you, and I said, I don't know who it is because I know our publicist well. I said, oh, she's pretty big, but I don't know. I mean, I had certain celebrities on. Yesterday I had Jim Leyritz, for Podcast Magazine, and the other does promote. Oh, well, today I have Manny Cabo, who's a good friend of mine from Clubhouse, that was on The Voice. And then I said, also I have someone else, but I think she's pretty big. Now I'm feeling stupid because they're like, wow, you're interviewing her. And I'm like, oh, really?
Well, I was mainly known for playing Matilda and Curb Your Enthusiasm. So if you're a comedy fan, so maybe you would be like that into that.
No, yeah. Who were you opposite as a guest starring role too? You did. Who was
that? Well, I'm actually opposite Larry David. For the most part, I have 6 scenes with him, and then with Jeff and with Susie. I worked with Susie and with Jeff in the show, and then I ended up working with Larry. Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, where's that on?
On HBO.
Oh, I don't get HBO, so.
Oh no, because you're missing the other thing that got released last year. I played a teenager who turns into a werewolf on Room 104, the Duplass brothers show. And I started on that show, and it was like I started on the only animated episode they had of that show. So it's in the last season because they are no longer doing the show, but it's like almost second to last episode, and it was so much fun to do.
So that's cool, Larry David. That's gotta be really cool. Don't you think?
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah. I had the chance to do, because I used to do shows at the Groundlings because my comedic mentor was the founder of the Groundlings. So I used to be part of like the founders troupe. So we used to do shows at the Groundlings over there all the time.
You got to be a Seinfeld fan then, right?
Oh, certainly. But the thing is, like, I got to do a couple of shows, actually 3 shows with Jason Alexander. And I was like, pinch me, like doing improv. Oh, you know what's funny? So I didn't know that he spoke Spanish. And I come out of the show. I'm like, we're running out of milk. And he came out and he started doing like the most fantastic Mexican accent.
Really?
I was like cracking up. It's like, Jason is not an improviser, but he's an amazing comedian. And he was like, I mean, he's so good. So I was like, pinch me. Like, I couldn't believe that. And then when they told me that I was going to audition for Larry David, I was like, just auditioning for him is like the peak of my career.
Oh yeah, because as a comedian, that's your deal, right?
Yeah, that's totally my deal. So in the audition, I was like begging him something like, no, Mr. Larry, no. So I kneeled down and I started pulling his pants and like he's grabbing his pants with his hands and I'm like grabbing his hands. And then I realized like, Natasha, the actress was like, I was pulling Larry David's pants. And I'm like, oh my God, Mr. Larry, I am so sorry, Mr. Larry. And he started cracking up. And I'm like, I made Larry David cry. That was awesome. Like, okay, if I don't book this show, I don't care. Like this, I made him laugh.
Exactly.
So, and then I ended up booking the show. So I loved that experience. It was great to work with them. Like,
okay, favorite Seinfelds, because I'm thinking of what the audience, if we were doing social audio right now.
Yes.
Favorite audience, favorite Seinfeld. I mean, people I've interviewed from Seinfeld.
Okay.
Soup Nazi, I've interviewed the guy that says, "You not going to wear the yellow ribbon?" That guy, he's been in many different shows. You know which one that is, where they were doing the AIDS march with Kramer, and Kramer wouldn't wear the yellow ribbon.
No, I don't remember.
You got yeah.
I've watched the show like 3 times, but
you're not a Seinfeld fan? Okay. The other
I'm a super Seinfeld fan. I'm telling you, I've seen it like 3 times.
With the AIDS one, and he would not wear the ribbon. He's
I remember in the Ruffle one, he's in a show and he would not wear the yellow ribbon. And what did the yellow ribbon?
They were marching for AIDS, and it was a bunch of people. And the guy that said, and he said they were going to get him, and they chase after him. Okay, so and then also
Spongebob, the guy,
also the Spongebob guy I've interviewed too. That's a comedian. He's also he's actor, and he was in what's the show? Oh my gosh, it's really well known, Gilmore Girls. And he's like the big one, the one that has the see, I'm terrible with names.
I hear you. But I used to improvise with Kieko, who is the Asian drummer that that from the Gilmore Girls. I love her. She's so good and she's so funny.
No, it's the guy who had the diner. That's the guy I interviewed.
Okay.
Yeah. So those are 3 people in Seinfeld. Also, oh my gosh, what am I thinking?
What?
Missed the guy, the greatest person, Elaine. I always interview him with NBC all the time for the dog show. So, I'm thinking about. See, this is what I don't care. This is the kind of thing, but that's what I think about when Seinfeld. So I've had those Seinfeld-esque moments, but I've never interviewed the major ones. I want the major ones so bad, and it's very hard. It's maybe when we get back to normal and I could get on red carpets, I'll meet all of them. But whenever that happens again, right? Because it's not easy. They're so busy, but the only way you get any of the top 3 in Seinfeld, wouldn't you agree? They'd probably be on a red carpet versus doing a podcast or radio show, a TV show. They only do the big ones. That's it.
Sure.
But you never know. If you would have told me I'd be interviewing Carol Baskin yesterday for an hour, I would have told you you're crazy. Okay. So for Selena, I can't wait. Netflix, your character, you're the villain. I love being the villain. Cannot wait to watch it. So those are the projects. Anything else going on with you right now? You're a voiceover artist too. Do you have any other projects?
Yes, I am recording my album.
All right.
So I am I'm working on it, and it was supposed to be ready this month, but is not yet. But people can expect to hear my music. I mean, people can hear some of my music, but not it's not anywhere in social media. But if you go to Entourage, the show, I had like 1 song in Entourage. If you go to Amazon Sneaky Pete on the last season,
your music was on Entourage.
My music was an Entourage. My music was in a show.
I love Entourage. That's one of my favorite shows. I don't know why. I love
it. It wasn't a show called Sneaky Pete.
Okay,
I know it is like in a show called The District, in a show called Johnny Zero. So I've been super lucky. It has nothing to do with the world of acting, but because of voiceovers, I had to do a lot of session singing for producers and music supervisors and stuff. So when they were looking for music, it's like, do you happen to have it? I'm like, yeah, I have this song and I have this song. So they have landed on TV shows and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to do more musical collaborations, which is one of my favorite things to do.
John O'Hurley. That's who I interviewed.
There you go. Just like been on your head, like, what was his name?
Exactly. All right. So best place to connect with you, social media wise, where can we go?
Yes. You can go to my website, natashaperez.com, to see what I'm up to. You can go to the Natasha Perez on Instagram and Twitter. And as I said, I'm not super active on Twitter, but like hit me up and I'll start being more active in it.
Where are you on Clubhouse? People are starting to find. Are you like what's your thing on Clubhouse?
I believe it's the Natasha Perez. I try to use that.
Let's get you some followers, so when you do jump on, they'll jump in with you.
Well, my phone is out, so I can't. I'm almost sure that is the Natasha Perez.
Okay.
So
Isn't that amazing what's happened in Clubhouse and different places like that? Social audio world's changed the world. It truly has. And when Facebook launches it and LinkedIn launches it, oh my goodness. And Instagram, now Instagram, they have something like that, and you can turn your camera off. So there's so much competition in that industry now.
Yeah.
And you never know who's going to be on Clubhouse. That's the thing. That's why I want you to follow me. So when you fall in a room, I'll say, hey, let's bring Natasha on stage. And you promote Selena. So, okay.
Well, I've done that. I've done that in a couple of Latino, because I left to Mexico to do a little bit of promo on the show in March. So I came back about 2-3 weeks ago. So when Clubhouse just was released, I was on it, and a lot of people, because a lot of the Latino actors and comedians knew who I was, because I'm also a comedian. So they're like, oh, there's Selena. So they
Paul Votto. If you're a comedian,
yes, of course.
Paul's a friend of mine on Clubhouse.
No way.
Paul comes to rooms all the time. Yeah, he's awesome.
I actually studied with Paul Votto
Isn't that funny?
In Vegas.
The 6 degrees of Paul's awesome, and I gave him some advice because he's launched his podcast on Clubhouse. Yeah, and I gave him advice on his podcast. Yeah, no. So I studied with him, and we did a workshop years ago with like Mo Collins and Rich Tellerico and like a lot of. Yeah, I only know Paul Votto from Clubhouse. So is he pretty big in the comedian world?
Well, he was, especially when Matt TV came, because he was one of the writers and one of the actors.
He doesn't have that in his bio.
What? Come on, he should.
I'll have to introduce him when Paul jumps on my room. I'll say, Paul Votto. And I'm on him all the time because I think he's interesting. But no, he didn't tell us that. I think he did. Maybe, I don't think it's his bio.
Am I? Well, I'm just like, am I blanking out? And I'm like, adding something to this.
He's so funny. He's had some.
I do know him from that time, so I know that Mo for sure.
So this is 6 degrees of Natasha and our conversations today. I told you you'd have a different interview than any of your other interviews. So we connect you on social media. You got to start a podcast, a comedy podcast, because the most popular next to true crime is comedy. Did you know in downloads?
Yes, podcast. I actually was invited to do a true crime, and I did a couple of things for one of the podcasts, like about maybe 3 years, maybe 4 years ago. But just as an actress, just to do, voices of the this and that, and like just to do characters when they were telling their stories. And it was fun, but I had so many other gigs that I was like, I guess I didn't even follow up with them. And I think they're huge now. I don't even remember their name, but I'm not much of a podcast person. Like I follow Joe Rogan and I follow David Asprey. And
the biggest, but I think that I don't have time to listen to podcasts either. And I do, because I'm a radio show. I mean, you're going to be on TV now, locally in Pittsburgh and on YouTube, but also you're going to be on all my syndication. A lot of it's terrestrial radio, drive time radio. So I'm a radio guy turned podcaster, but I'm seeing that podcasting's the future, which is weird. But I also think social audio.
I am a radio girl turned into a TV and music person.
But no, and you're an actress, that Selena. Everyone check it out. Netflix season 2. You're the bad guy. We don't want to know that. And it's good talking, Natasha.
Great talking to you.
All right. That was the Neil Haley Show. Take care, guys.